Do you know what I did at 7 o'clock this morning? I made a proper pot of tea, put it in the good china. The set James and I received as a wedding gift in 1963. The blue and white one with the willow pattern. 2 cups. I only filled 1. But I set out 2. I always set out 2. People ask me if I am lonely. Catherine asks me. William asks me. The grandchildren, in their careful way, ask me. And what I want to tell you today is, no, not in the way they mean. My name is Dorothy Sinclair. I am 89 years old. I live alone in this house since James died 4 years ago, and I want to tell you how. Because loneliness is one of the great fears of getting old. I understand that. I felt it too in those first months after James. A particular kind of silence that was not peaceful. It had edges. But loneliness and aloneness are not the same thing. I learned to feel the difference. And that learning, that is what I want to share today. Before I tell you the 5 things, I want to say something about those first months. Because I think honesty about how bad it was matters. People who are newly alone, whether from the death of a partner or from a relationship ending or from children leaving, sometimes feel they should be managing better than they are. That other people in their position seem to be handling it gracefully. That perhaps there is something wrong with them. I want to say plainly, there is nothing wrong with you. The first months after James were the hardest of my life, and I have had a long life with its share of hard things. But this was different. The aloneness after 58 years of togetherness was not simply the absence of a person. It was the absence of a presence that had structured my entire day. The cup of tea made without being asked. The voice at the end of the evening. The weight of another person in the house. Without that, the house was physically the same house, but it was a different country. I want you to know that, if you are in that place right now, the difficulty is real, and the difficulty passes, not into the absence of grief, but into something you can live inside. The first thing I did, I stopped trying to fill the quiet with noise. After James died, I left the television on, all day, sometimes all night. The sound of voices in the house. I told myself it was company. It was not company. It was a way of not being present in my own home. One morning I woke up and turned it off. I want to tell you that was brave. In the moment it felt like stepping off a ledge. The house was very quiet, and then it was not. Birds outside, the sound of the street, the refrigerator doing what refrigerators do. A clock in the hallway I had never really heard before. I had been living in this house for decades, and I had not been quiet inside it for a very long time. James always said that silence was not an absence. It was a presence, if you let it be. He was right. He usually was. What I found in the quiet, once I stopped fighting it, was not emptiness. It was the texture of my own life, the sounds that had always been there and that I had been covering. And slowly, over weeks and months, I found that I was not afraid of the quiet anymore, that the quiet was not the enemy, that I could be inside it and still be here, still be Dorothy, still be present in my own life. That was one of the most important things I learned in those years. Silence is survivable. more than survivable. It is, in the right conditions, nourishing. The second thing. I gave myself a calendar, a real one, paper, on the kitchen wall. Not for appointments, for rituals. Monday morning is for walking, the long way, past the harbor. Tuesday afternoon is for reading, new books only, no rereading until the new ones are done. Wednesday is for calling William. Thursday is for cooking something I have never made before. Friday is for Catherine. Saturday I do whatever I feel. Sunday I write. Not for anyone, just for myself, in a soft-covered notebook James gave me years ago that I had never opened. Structure is not a cage. I know people say that, but I think they have never tried living inside one and finding out what it protects you from. Structure gave me the feeling that my days were shaped by intention, not just passing. And that feeling, the sense that your days mean something, that tomorrow has a purpose, is one of the most effective treatments for loneliness I have found. I want to say something about the Thursday ritual in particular, cooking something I have never made before. In the years when James was alive, I cooked the things we loved, the same dishes, returned to, reliable, known. After he died, those dishes were difficult, too associated with the table we had shared. So I started cooking new things, not as a replacement, as a way of having a Thursday that belonged to this new chapter. I have made dishes from countries I have never visited. I have failed spectacularly on a number of Thursday evenings. I have eaten things that should not be eaten and called it research. Those Thursdays have been among the most genuinely enjoyable afternoons of the past 4 years. The learning, the attention required, the willingness to try something that might not work. That willingness matters at any age, but I think it matters most in old age, when the temptation is to narrow down, to stick to what is known, to reduce the number of things that can surprise you. Do not narrow down. The narrowing is the loneliness. The third thing, I learned to be interested again. I am a school teacher. I was a school teacher. And something that happens to people when they retire, something that happened to me, is that curiosity narrows. You stop learning, not because you have learned everything, but because there is no longer a reason imposed from outside, no students, no lessons, no questions to answer except your own. In the first year after James, I did not read anything new. I reread things I loved, safe books, books where I already knew the ending. Then one afternoon I picked up a book Catherine had left here, something about the history of color, how humans developed the dyes for certain shades, completely outside anything I had ever studied. I read it in 3 days. And something woke back up. Now I am curious again, about plants, about history, about what the grandchildren are doing in their lives, about the young woman who lives 3 doors down and walks her dog at the same time every morning. I started saying good morning. She started stopping. Her name is Alicia. She is from Portugal. She studies marine biology. She tells me things about the ocean that I find genuinely astonishing. Last Tuesday she told me about bioluminescence, about the way certain creatures in the deep ocean produce their own light. She described it with the particular excitement of someone who chose their subject well. I thought about it for the rest of the day. These creatures, in the dark, making their own light, finding a way to be visible. There are worse metaphors for old age. Curiosity is a cure for loneliness. It does not replace the people you have loved. Nothing does. But it keeps the door open to the world. The fourth thing. I let myself be reached. This one cost me something to admit, because for most of my life I was the one who reached. I organized, I called, I initiated. After James, I stopped. I told myself I did not want to be a burden. But the truth, and I thought about this for a long time before I could say it plainly, was that not wanting to be a burden was partly pride, dressed up as courtesy. One Thursday evening in the second winter after James died, Catherine called and said she was outside, just appeared, with soup, real soup, not the tinned kind. I opened the door and she looked at me and said, "I know you are fine, but I needed to see you." I let her in. We sat at the kitchen table. We talked for 3 hours about James, about when she was small, about things she remembered that I had forgotten. That was the evening I understood that being reached is a gift you give as much as receive. When you allow someone to show up for you, when you open the door and let them sit with you, you are giving them something real. You are giving them the chance to love you the way they want to love you. And that chance, the space to care for someone who will receive it, is not nothing. It is one of the most generous things you can offer. I think about that now, every time I nearly say I am fine and mean, please ask again. The fifth thing. I keep James present, not as a ghost, as a companion. There is a photograph of him on the table near the window, taken in 1987. He is sunburned, laughing at something outside the frame. I do not remember what. I talk to him, not every day, but sometimes, especially in the evenings. I tell him what happened, what Catherine said, what I cooked, what I read. People might find that strange. I do not find it strange. He was the person I talked to for 58 years. The habit of turning to him is not something that disappears. I have simply changed the form of it. And there is something in the saying of it, in the naming of the day to someone, that makes the day feel witnessed, even now. I think about what I told him last Thursday, about the bioluminescence, about Alicia and the deep ocean creatures making their own light. He would have loved that. He would have had 17 questions. He would have made me find a book about it within the week. Knowing what he would have said, being able to imagine it clearly enough to almost hear it, that is not imagining him. That is carrying him. And the carrying is not grief. It is company. Do I miss him? Every morning. In the space beside me before I get up. In the cup I wash that was not used. But missing someone and being destroyed by their absence are two different things. I have learned to miss James the way you miss a season, the way you know winter will come and come again, and you have learned to find things in it that are beautiful. Living alone at 89 is not what I would have chosen. I want to say that clearly. I chose James. I would choose him again in any version of my life. But this is the version I have, and I have decided, deliberately, not easily, that it will be a good one. Not because I am brave, but because the alternative, shrinking into grief, letting the rooms get smaller and smaller, did not seem like a way to honor the life James and I built together. He deserved more than that from me. And I think about that now every morning when I set out the 2 cups. If you are living alone and struggling with the quiet, I want you to know it can change, not into what it was, into something different, which can still be good. If this stayed with you, leave me a comment. Tell me how you handle the quiet days. I read every single one and I learn from them. And if you know someone who is alone and fading, not from illness but from loneliness, share this with them. That is the most useful thing I can imagine you doing today.